Let me ask you something. What if Seattle is dying and we don't even know it? This story is about a seething, simmering anger that is now boiling over into outrage. It is about people who have felt compassion, yes, but who no longer feel safe, no longer feel like they are heard, no longer feel protected. It is about lost souls who wander our streets, untethered to home or family or reality. This story is about a beautiful jewel that has been violated, and a crisis of faith amongst a generation of Seattleites falling out of love with their home. And I ask again, what if Seattle is dying and we don't even know it?
I drive my 12-year-old's carpool through Yesler when we do carpool, and it's a good talking point about, what they're seeing, what we can do to help, how we can make a difference. And honestly, at this point, I don't have a good answer for how we can make a difference.
Matt Campbell lives and works in Seattle. He's raising a family, and like many others, he's mad.
It's gotten to a point where I'm embarrassed of it. I don't want to have my friends and family come here anymore.
This is Mehrdad Derek Shande. He runs an upholstery shop in Ballard near the Burke-Gilman Trail. Out his window, he looks at this.
The city mayor doesn't give the cops authority. That's the problem. We need somebody with some weights and tell them, it's not legal living on the sidewalk. It's city ordinance. It's not legal living here. Why can't we enforce the law?
Last May 2nd at a town hall meeting in Ballard, simmering anger boiled over into all-out rage.
Will you manage these camps, and will you enforce the law?
If property crime is committed, violence is committed, you need to call 911 and the police.
You've lost all credibility when you said 2 words. You said call 911. Do you understand that the police have told us to vote you all out so that they can do their jobs? And you're telling us to call 911? You're smiling. You think it's funny? You think it's funny the way we're living?
The way we're living. In beautiful Seattle, people are angry, furious about the way we are living. Let's look for a moment at property crimes for the 20 biggest cities in the country. New York City in 2017 had 1,448 property crimes per 100,000 residents. Los Angeles was just over 2,500. Chicago, 3,263. And look at Seattle, 5,258. The only major city with a worse number is San Francisco, which is dealing with the same problems for the same reasons that we are. They top the 6,000 mark. It's not your imagination. The crime here, the burglaries, the theft, the stealing of cars is worse than in other big cities. And in most cases, it's way worse. And then you walk down the street and you see a wretched soul like this, consumed by demons, maybe madness, maybe drugs, maybe both. This is what suffering looks like. This is pain. Ranting and raving, screaming silently, coming completely unraveled before our eyes. And then tomorrow, he'll wake up and relive the nightmare all over again. Starving, eating trash from a garbage can. Look at the people walk by. Of course they're not shocked. How could they be? They see it every day. How can this be who we are? How can this be what we allow? How did the word compassion get twisted into this sickening reality?
Damn blanket! Shut up! I'm driving full! Damn blanket! Shut up!
The Puget Sound Business Journal estimates that Seattle and its outlying areas spend $1 billion addressing and responding to the homeless situation every year. And they say that number is almost certainly underestimated. This is a list of familiar faces, repeat offenders, people who break the laws, get caught, get released, and break the laws again and again and again. There are 100 names on the list. Look at the sheer volume of criminal cases, Calvin A., 68 criminal cases since 2002, repeated random assaults on random individuals. Drainin B., 54 criminal cases since 2016. Michelle C., 72 cases since 2000. And the list goes on and on.
The fact that this system could go on with, in effect, 100% failure rate for so long without anybody raising questions, without City Council hosting hearings, without any action being taken, is something that it's hard for me to explain.
Seattle police are afraid to speak out. For 2 years, we've tried to get cops to talk about what they see every day, about what's really happening on the streets and behind the scenes. And so we put out some generic questionnaires, which were filled out by completely anonymous police officers. Their responses are eye-opening, frightening, and at times sad. One officer wrote simply, "Yes, I am frustrated because I'm a law enforcement officer that is told not to enforce the law." Another wrote, "It's simple. Start keeping criminals in jail. Judges need to stop giving them ridiculously low sentences, and prosecutors need to stop accepting cheesy plea deals and actually lock people up when they commit a crime. That's all it would take to drastically lower Seattle's crime rate." Another officer said, "People come here because it's called Freeattle, and they believe if they come here they will get free food, free medical treatment, free mental health treatment, a free tent, free clothes, and will be free of prosecution for just about everything." And they're right. It didn't used to be that way. Law enforcement officers used to be able to enforce the laws. There was a police officer named Todd Wiebke. He prided himself on getting his boots dirty, on meeting the people on the fringes, in the camps. And then one day this past October, Todd Wiebke was told by one superior to impound an RV and clean up the spot. And when he did it, another superior scolded him for doing so because of new protocol. He had a bellyful, and he walked into HR, and he quit. Retired, just like that.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that the only thing I can equate it to is we're running a concentration camp without barbed wire, up to and including the medical experiment of poisoning these people with drugs. I don't know how else to put it, and it's infuriating.
Let me ask you this. Knowing what you know, having seen what you've seen, if you had a young family, would you raise them in Seattle right now?
Absolutely not. Not even. No.
A report received is when police file a report of a case requesting that the city attorney's office file charges on behalf of the city. Back in 2006, for every 100 reports received, 25 of them didn't get filed. How times have changed. In 2016, the latest data we have, for every 100 police reports, 46 of them, almost twice as many, didn't get filed. Nothing happened at all. They were completely ignored. Of the remaining 54 of the original 100, 1/3 of them were then outright dismissed, thrown out. Another third were listed as other, with no resolution. So only 18 of the original 100 reports filed by police actually result in convictions. 18. And of those 18 convictions after plea deals and lenient sentences, very few cases end up with anyone really being held accountable. Those are 2016 numbers. We have no reason to believe the trends haven't continued since then. The real homeless you don't see. Out-of-work truckers or construction workers who've run into bad luck don't live like this, in tents on mud patches. This is something different. This is drugs, heroin, meth. Citizens know it.
Can we at least acknowledge the elephant in the room that this is also a drug problem? I've only heard it being mentioned as a housing problem. This is a drug problem.
The quote-unquote homeless know it too.
I have not met anyone else on the street who's not in some phase of addiction. I mean, of use, of serious use. And I think that that's the starting point. You just have to address that. You have to figure that out.
So I want to make sure I got that correct.
I would say 100% of the people that I have met out here are in some level of addiction.
100%.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Every single person I've met out here.
But listen closely. We constantly refer to it as a homeless crisis, not a drug crisis.
The fractured, siloed approach of homelessness in our region.
To help combat the homelessness epidemic.
And the homelessness crisis.
We have a crisis around housing and homelessness.
If we won't even name the thing that is destroying Seattle, what hope do we have of fixing it? Campers show up, they eventually get moved. They show up again. They set up where they please, in front of tourists, next to businesses, it doesn't matter. And they know that a lack of political will, or an overwhelming of resources, or indifference disguised as compassion will allow them to stay. And don't think for a moment that the visitors to our city don't notice.
Well, it's kind of surprising. I don't know why the city would let that happen. I mean, this is your touristy spot, you know what I mean?
This family is from Tennessee. They seem genuinely confused.
I just don't understand. Isn't it trespassing? You know what I'm saying? So how can they stay there?
I mean, right by our parking garage, there's just trash and...
Oh, the smell was awful.
Oh my God, the smell is horrible in any stairwell you go into around here. Oh.
Let me ask you something. Do you think they'll be back to visit again? They use deadly drugs, and they sell those drugs for $10 a dose. And over they steal us blind to get the $10. And they pollute our streets and parks and neighborhoods. And they live in filth and despair like animals. And we allow it, all of it. We used to talk about compassion. And when the madness that is always patiently waiting off in the distance finally moves in and wraps its arms around them, and in the end it always does, the suffering escalates exponentially until the misery is a white-hot pain that never stops, never rests. This man in the downtown core of our city was suffering, in distress. Once he fell down, he couldn't get back on his feet again, so he sat there for a long time. At the exact same time, just across the street, there was another man, also apparently in the middle of a drug crisis, staggering out of it, lost in some other world. You can see the same thing on a lot of corners, every single day. To leave them alone is a death sentence. Sooner or later they die, on the streets or in tents or in low-barrier tiny houses. To leave them alone is to shame ourselves. And that's why they need help. They don't need camps and injection sites and bags of free socks. They need help, the kind that takes courage, the kind that gives them and Seattle a fighting chance. They need intervention. And so the city of Seattle and King County seem to be struggling mightily to find answers. We came all the way to the state of Rhode Island looking for answers, and we may have found some right behind those prison walls. Providence is a medium-sized city in our tiniest state. What they are working on here, while not outwardly revolutionary or mind-boggling at first blush, is a bold step towards saving lives and cities and giving tortured souls who've succumbed to the hell of heroin a fighting chance. And in Providence is a man who will tell you about the program they have developed. But first, he will tell you his own story.
I didn't have to do what I did. I wanted to be something that I couldn't be. I wanted to emulate the older fellas in the neighborhood.
His name is Michael Manfredi. He used heroin for 35 years.
I became addicted at the age of 15. I was a full-fledged heroin addict.
15 years old.
15 years old.
This is his mugshot from the last time he came to the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. 20 years of his life had been spent locked up.
When I got the handcuffs put on me at my house that day when they kicked my door in, I looked at the lady detective and I said, "Thank you." And she looked at me like I was crazy. She said to her partner, she said, "This guy's nuts, ain't he?" She said, "Well," I said, "You just saved my life." Because if she didn't stop me there, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I would either be dead or I'd be doing life.
The question facing Rhode Island is similar to the question facing much of the United States. How do we protect our society while at the same time showing compassion towards those who are sick and struggling? It may be the question of our time.
I've wanted this program basically since the day I started.
Dr. Jennifer Clark is the head of what is referred to back east as the MAT program, Medication-Assisted Treatment.
We can't just ignore our way out of this. We can't arrest our way out of this. People are dying, and there's something we can do to stop that.
It starts out here, really, because the first thing that they do in Rhode Island is enforce their laws. Drug dealers and the people who steal and commit crime to get their drugs eventually end up in this place, the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. It's not a nice place. It's a prison. But inside the walls, something amazing happens. Every day, the inmates who are in the MAT program line up and they take their medicine. There are 3 opiate blockers that work: methadone, Suboxone, and Vivitrol. They are FDA approved. They get people off heroin. They save lives. Prisoners who enter the program choose which medicine they want to use.
Really, this is the perfect setting because there's not as much distraction, actually.
Linda Hurley is the president of a nonprofit called Kodak. It's been around for 50 years on the outside. The state of Rhode Island hired Kodak to distribute medicine inside the walls of the prison.
All 3 medications you carry on your life. It's no different than if you were utilizing lisinopril or something, I don't know, a blood pressure medication or insulin. You have a family, you have a job, you build your life. What it does is it stabilizes us physically so that we can do the emotional work that we need to do to heal from the disease.
I started messing around with the pills and everything, and then once I found opiates, that was the end of it, And then
Ray Vincent has been behind bars for 3 years. He was stealing to support his habit for a while, then he upped the ante to robbery.
Maybe if I didn't come in here, I'd probably be dead.
So you think getting arrested was a good thing for you?
I think it saved my life.
Ray takes Suboxone. He knows he may take it for the rest of his life. You sound optimistic, actually.
Yeah, well, I don't want to continue to come here the rest of my life. And if this medication is a stepping stone I need, I'll do it. That's the bottom line.
Inside the prison, inside the MAT program, the inmates have counselors. There are one-on-one meetings with recovery coaches and group meetings as well. They hit addiction with every tool they can throw at it.
And the recovery coaches come in and meet with anyone who's willing and interested in meeting with them so that they can develop a relationship with them on the inside and then have that relationship sustained on the outside.
It's important to understand that the genius of what they're doing in Rhode Island isn't just that there is full drug treatment inside the prison walls. The genius is what happens when the inmates leave.
Priority number 1 being how are they going to continue their medication.
The minute someone shows up in a program in the community, they have to be registered in that database, so we know if they're showing up or not.
Are the numbers going up?
The figure that I saw yesterday was 93% of the people who leave here on MAT are following up in the community. That's amazing.
93%?
93% are following through.
Michael Manfredi is one who stuck with the program after he was released. He's alive to talk about it.
Would I be where I am today if this program wasn't implemented? No. I wouldn't be here today. Honest to God, I'd be dead.
This is a Kodak Center. They are sprinkled throughout Rhode Island. There are 7 of them in Providence alone.
Once you come into the Department of Corrections and are medicated under methadone or Suboxone or Vivitrol, you become a Kodak patient. You have a patient ID number in our system, and our agencies throughout Rhode Island are all connected.
Former inmates or anyone else in the program show up anytime, any day.
Take-home bottles. So those would be filled.
And they get their medication. No red tape, no questions asked, no doctor's appointments, no vouchers. They're in the system, they get their meds. It's that simple. Josh Broadfoot overdosed 12 times and somehow survived. He got 3 years for selling drugs.
I'm grateful that I was arrested and taken out of the situation I was in because, it sounds retarded to say I'm grateful I was arrested and I'm taken away from my family, but I might not even be there to ever see my family again if that situation hadn't happened. I might be gone completely on this day.
Josh is on methadone. The MAT program, he says, gives him hope.
You got to get out there and do different, but at the same time, we have a little bit of help along the way. We have this counseling. We have something that we know is helping us to stay away from opiates and people that care, and so that's a major help.
On the outside, those group meetings continue, and so does the counseling that is so very important, up to 3 times a week.
And I changed by becoming someone I didn't want to be.
My psychiatrist, my caseworker, my case manager, and my doctor that prescribes my pills are all in one facility. I don't have to go all over the state of Rhode Island. It's one facility.
You know, with all the counseling and all the support that I have, it's a very smooth transition.
Ray Vincent got out of prison 19 days after we spoke to him. He's going to school to become a welder. He gets his medicine at a Kodak center every week.
It is the right thing to do. It is what we're obligated to do as healthcare providers. It's the smart thing to do.
Patricia Coyne-Fag, who runs the entire correctional facility, knows that one of the ways of measuring success is looking at the death rate for those leaving prison.
Because I've seen it work. I mean, when you see the numbers, people who would be dead are not because of this program.
Leaving the walls behind is dangerous because addicts who are clean will use the same amount of drugs they used before and then overdose. The rate of that happening is way down in Rhode Island.
And what we found was a 65% decrease in mortality for people with a history of incarceration.
65%. And the program is still only about 3 years old. Michael Manfredi has a job now. He goes to meetings. He's reconnected with his family. He's productive. He's happy. He's alive.
My biggest thing is my granddaughter. She melts my heart, man. Absolutely, I've never been happier in my life.
Why is that?
Because I've never lived a productive life like I am today.
Look at this place. Look at all the infrastructure. What if this was a specialized facility where we could fight this thing that is happening with everything we've got? What if it was a place where doctors and counselors and caseworkers were available, along with the treatment drugs that we know work, the ones we know save lives? What if this was a very specific place where sick people learn how to live life again, with job training, therapy, treatment, all of it in one place? It would have to be a place where the patients couldn't simply get up and leave if they wanted, because the sickness is such that that doesn't really work. But eventually they would leave and have jobs and families, and maybe they would stay on the opiate blockers for the rest of their lives. This is McNeil Island, a largely abandoned correctional facility in Washington state. But the concept, the idea of a specialized approach to a specialized problem could work almost anywhere. Maybe it's time for a tough but also compassionate concept that works, that saves lives and cities. What they've done in Rhode Island and in other places can be boiled down to 2 simple concepts: enforcement and intervention. Seattle and King County have retreated away from those things. We've left sick, tortured souls to wander the streets, to rot in filth and die before us. We've turned over our city to those who would steal from us and addict our children. We've turned away from simple concepts that bind together society and keep it safe. Things like enforcement and intervention. A city is a living thing. It has a rhythm and a heartbeat, a kind of soul. It is a collection of ideas that we protect and defend, old ideas and new ones. And over time, the ideas blend into a collective, living, ever-changing dream. And the dream is nothing more and nothing less than a better life for our children. But behind the beauty and the ideals, behind the bridges and the ballparks and the beautiful buildings, the dirty work is the fight. Great dreams and great cities don't survive without a fight. Seattle is dying. Maybe with all the wealth and growth, we became so pleased with ourselves or so busy that we forgot about the hard part. Maybe good people who go to work every day and raise families and pay taxes, the ones who built the city and dreamed the dream, forgot about the dirty work. Maybe we forgot about the fight.